This is the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where we have conversations with everyday martial artists about their histories and how martial arts influence their daily lives. You are listening to the abbreviated version of this podcast, which is the first 20 minutes or so of the show. Please consider supporting the show by subscribing on our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/MALMAG, and for about the price of one coffee shop coffee per month, you can get access to 4 new podcasts each month, 1 week before their YouTube release dates. You also have access to all of our existing shows, which at this point is about 100 hours of shows for you to enjoy. Individual shows can be purchased at our Gumroad page. That is malmag.gumroad.com. If you're looking for some sticks for FMA, some cool t-shirts, or even a course on Dos Manos, have a stop by martialartslifestylemagazine.com and click on the store tab or on the courses tab for that course. This week I'm connecting to the west coast of Canada and I talk with martial artist TJ Spencer. We talk about how he got involved in martial arts, how he connected to Jeet Kune Do through the Paul Vunak lineage, and how he incorporates his indigenous North American heritage into his martial arts, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and it seems like I'm on a Canada theme, as we've noticed several of the people that I've interviewed of late. Well, at least I guess last episode and several before have been from Canada, and we have more Canadians coming up. But anyway, that's in the future. That was then. This is now. And I'm talking with the west area of Canada, right? You're up in British Columbia?
Yeah, I'm in BC, eh? I had to go extra Canadian for you there.
All right. This is TJ Spencer, who is someone who's become a friend of mine through, the modern way of making friends, which is via internet.
That's how it is nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. It's kind of cool. How many people do you really know and you have these interactions with and, like really kind of cool interactions with? And you're like, I actually never met him in person.
I've actually had quite a bit there. It's awesome because internet has shrunken our world. I wouldn't have probably met you otherwise. So
right. No, it's very true. And it's kind of cool in that way. And there's people getting married this way.
If it's legally binding, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's the whole people meeting, their spouse from either across the country. There's a couple at the academy that are like that. Really nice couple. They've been married for a long time. I think she was from here in LA. He was from East Coast, and they met via internet. And great couple. They train at the academy. They're awesome. They're really skilled people and just kind of fun people to be around. And you see, it's kind of an interesting thing. And so I think for the business world, it's obviously done really well. And then you were saying you were teaching an online course before, so now we've got that whole thing open.
Yep. I just finished one, so I'm relaxing now.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, I guess we'll talk about that a little bit because that's an interesting topic I think to talk about. But let's kind of go back to your origins. How did you get involved in martial arts?
All right. Well, when I was a wee lad, the big thing for my age group was Ninja Turtles. You couldn't not love Ninja Turtles. Yeah. I mean, I've grown up and I love Ninja Turtles so much. I got one on my leg. We're voiced right now, so you won't be. I can show you, but they wouldn't be able to see.
Yeah. Oh, damn! That's actually pretty well done.
Yeah, I'll show them. Anyways, but yeah, I first got into Ninja Turtles, and I was like, "That's awesome." And then my mom signed me and my brother up for Taekwondo. So we did Taekwondo as like little kids. Right? We're talking like kindergarten age. And then in that, I remember vividly they had like a sleepover night at the school, and they were putting on Karate Kid. So we were exposed to the Karate Kid, which is interesting because I mean it was Taekwondo school and that's karate, but whatever. And
yeah, I mean that's an interesting thing about that whole, and it's funny now that it's fleshing out in Cobra Kai more with like, oh yeah, it's actually this, which I've always wondered, well, then why do you call the guy sensei? Shouldn't it be like Sabunem or something like that? But whatever. Anyway.
Notice me, senpai.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then I did that, and I did that. I don't remember how long I did that for, but then years forward, when I'm a teenager, and, Dragon Ball Z was all big, although we would say Z, but
Oh, wow.
Dragon Ball Z
Okay.
got big, and then everyone was like, "Well, we want to try out this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that's popping up everywhere," and so I did that in my teens for a while, and then I stopped, got married, had kids, and that the kids great, relationship not good, but from that, years later, I was taking my kids to a daddy and me group. So I was doing that, every few days. I would take them there. They'd play with kids. All the dads would get together, and during one of the moments where the kids were supposed to play by themselves and you were chilling, I had one of the Bruce Lee magazines that were coming out for a while there, and
Oh, yeah. Huh?
I was flipping through that, and the facilitator, he came up behind me and he's like, "Oh, you like Bruce Lee, do you?" And I'm like, well, I
Did he say it
Bruce
in
Lee,
like a Japanese henchman voice from a Bruce Lee movie? Ah, so you like Bruce Lee, do you?
ah, no. Although that would have been amazing.
I know.
And I said to him, like, well, I like Bruce Lee. Yeah, I got into Bruce Lee through the Brandon Lee stuff, right?
Right.
So I was enjoying that. And he's like, well, I might be facilitating this, but I'm actually a Taekwondo instructor. And I'm like,
Oh,
really
wow.
now? I'm like, well, that's crazy. So he's like, well, if you're interested, I'd happily teach you. Well, cut forward a few weeks, and me, him, and another guy are meeting up at outside of a school, and the rest is history. I haven't looked back. It's been amazing.
Nice. I was almost hoping you're going to say, yeah, well, I'm a Ninja Turtle who does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I mean, it fit the theme of the Karate Kid with the Taekwondo.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
BJJ, ninjutsu. Got
Right,
jitsu in there.
exactly. I love it. Well, that's cool. And was he what kind of what let's say JKD family, I guess if we're going to put it that way. What was his lineage? Not again,
So
not I
he
know that's like been a big sore subject on uh the social media
various
groups. If you're
grouping.
listening and you're into this, and this is actually kind of I think how TJ and I kind of got
The
connected,
hundred
which
percent
is
how we met.
yeah, which is hilarious. And I'm not exploring in that way. This is more of just I appreciate all, always have, and so it's always interesting to see where people come from. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. For sake of conversation
Right,
reasons.
exactly.
So that instructor is a senior full under Paul Vunak.
Oh, PFAS.
And
Okay, great.
yeah, and he trained an insane amount with Trevor Clarkson and Thomas Cruise.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's
So
always an interesting group. I enjoy those folks because they like to train. That's
mm,
that's my thing about anybody who likes to come in and train and have fun. That I like. People like to sit around and bitch. You know, not
we
my thing.
definitely got lots of training in. Yeah, so he was the instructor that introduced me to the JKD world.
Cool.
I should probably say his name. His name is Brian Puick.
Okay, very cool. Awesome. So is he still operating the school wherever?
So I've since moved from that location, and
Uh-huh.
I believe now he has partnered with Trevor Clarkson, and they've opened up a thing called Alpha Scrap, which I
Okay.
believe is more online based.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty smart way to go. And like I said, we'll talk about that because it's an interesting thing, and a lot of this will be, I think, informative for the audience, but me as well, who's like going, Well, at some point, there's an inevitability of me doing a little bit more getting out there and teaching kind of thing. And that seems like a really interesting way to go about it or start it anyway.
Yeah.
So do you primarily just focus on online training, or do you have a school where you have physical students coming to you?
Are you talking about what I will teach or how I'm learning myself? Because I'm always a learner. I will always be a learner and all that.
Right, of course. Yeah, that's a given. We'll definitely get that. But do you do teach, right? So you teach online, that I know. Do you have a place where people come to you actually in person as
So
well?
I do online stuff, yes. But yes, a few times a week, me and some people will meet outside of actually a nearby school, and we'll train out there for a couple hours, and that's great. But then if people want to, have like a one-on-one session, I'll go wherever they want.
Cool.
I'm more flexible like that.
Gotcha. Well, I think there's a benefit to that. If you're tied to a building, it's all, I guess, up to your style of teaching or what you desire, lifestyle, I guess, in the end. Some people like to
Absolutely.
operate a big building and get tied to it, and others, it's kind of cool to be the mobile guy. Like I've known a few people that basically get a big old modern day, pretty awesome like camper van, and they just kind of do their tour around the country teaching. And I'm
Oh,
like,
for sure.
that doesn't seem like that sucks. That actually seems kind of cool.
And as a full-time single dad, it works better for me to be able to
Right.
be more flexible.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, kids are back in school now, yeah.
Yes, that's how I was able to facilitate this easier.
Yeah, I know, and it's fun. It's the funny thing about Southern California is the weather doesn't change too much other than hot, really hot. And so you lose track sometimes if you're busy. But I live right behind one of the major high schools, so that's when I know, oh, school's back in. Look at the traffic and listen to the noise.
Slow down your driving.
Yeah, it's right. And there's like 2,000 kids walking down the street. Okay, school's in.
Start them
And
young.
what gets
Get
even
them into the
funnier
martial
is,
arts.
we have oh yeah, well, because we have a little dragons class at the academy, and because they're local, there's some of them that when they get up to 13, 14 years old, they start going to this high school over here. And I remember there was a kid by the name of Chance, and he was one of these kids, that can grow a better mustache at 14 than I ever could before or now or whatever. And so one day I'm sitting in my truck. So I've got this big lifted Ford Bronco, and I'm kind of sitting there getting ready to go. And I was looking at something. All of a sudden, there's just boom, seafood. And I about jumped through the roof because I look over and there's this big, hairy faced dude looking at me. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, Chance, Jesus Christ, you scared the hell out of me, dude. But he had no idea I lived there. He just like saw me and kind of comes running up and scares the shit out of me.
Awesome.
That's cool. So, how do you, when you teach online, is it a private or do you do group? Is it like you set up a class and then people tune in, or are you doing one-on-ones, or how's that work?
So the guy who certified me, uh, Gavin Edis, he started the online classes, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'll teach here and there. I was teaching today. He's away for a little bit, so I was teaching today. And it normally runs, Sunday night, Tuesday morning, Tuesday evening, Thursday morning, Thursday evening, Friday morning. But we used to actually do it every single day, multiple times a day. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, it's open to anyone who really wants to pop in.
Well, that's pretty cool. So it's a live thing where you are at a room or studio or whatever, and do you have a person with you to assist, or are you just usually kind of coaching people through movement, or how does that work?
So, I mean, naturally, if we would recommend if you can get someone to train with, absolutely do it. If you can
Right.
train in person, absolutely do it. I realize also that's not always an option for people, right? So, a lot of what we'll do will be solo stuff,
Okay.
um, or we'll adapt it in a way that if you have someone there, you can, practice with them. So, if that means, putting out, dummy arms or something to work on, then that's what we'll do. As
Right.
long as
Yeah,
you have a
yeah.
reference point, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of, just curious about that because I think, if I was going to teach that way, I'm like, well, I'm going to grab somebody to be here with me, obviously, because how do I show something like a trapping or even, I mean, kickboxing, we can shadow box a little bit, but, if we're working on defensive movement stuff, I'm like, I kind of need someone punching at me because it's all that crazy
I
stuff
have
we had
been
to do
known to
back in the
call my
COVID
kids in.
period, where it's like, oh,
Yes,
wait, well, we got to practice this, but we got to stand 6 feet apart. Like, okay.
absolutely. I'll from time to time I might call my kids in. I mean, they know not to move their head if daddy's getting in too close for trapping. Maybe I'll throw in a headbutt. I'll be like, don't move, because I don't
Yeah.
actually want to headbutt you. If I simulate an ear bite, they're like, oh God, dad. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the worst part, then there's like, this video evidence of you like headbutting children or something out there.
they can walk away afterwards. That's why you get
Exactly.
people to sign waivers.
Yeah,
Can't sue me
exactly.
now.
Exactly. Well, and it's, as we know, the way it works, all I got to do is grab one frame of something, blow the
Oh God,
context,
yeah.
and go, look at here.
Yes, I've seen that.
Exactly.
That's when you
So,
pixel it all up.
yeah, exactly. So, do you teach martial art for a living, or do you have a different profession?
So I will teach. I don't mind getting paid for martial arts. That's by all means. But I
Oh
also
yeah,
do
well,
like
that's a fun
audio
topic.
dramas and video.
You do?
I
Sorry, say again.
I'll do like audio dramas and videos. I started doing audio dramas with a company out of the UK that's known for Doctor Who spin-offs and among other things
Oh,
called
okay.
BBV Productions. So I started doing stuff with them. Now I'm also doing stuff myself. I started my own thing called Mixed Bloods Productions. So I'll do my own things there. Uh, so
So
between
is this kind of
martial
like,
arts,
for lack of, I mean, I'm an old guy, so is this like an old radio show?
yeah, audio dramas would be like old radio shows, but
Got it. Okay,
more
just so the old
broad.
farts like me understand, like, okay, audio drama, that sounds like a radio show.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, that's
I
great. I didn't even know if there was a market for something like that. I totally into. Okay, now I'm going to be checking that out. That sounds cool.
huge. There's tons. Actually, there's a good company out of the states that I mean called I'm going to be name dropping like crazy here, aren't I? Called Graphic Audio that's huge in the states. They're all at the trucker
Wow.
stops. I
Okay.
have not worked with them. If they hear me, please by all means call me. But things like that. I guess you could say I'm freelancy, right?
No, that's cool.
I am willing to do various different things in my skill set. I also
Right.
participate in a lot of indigenous type stuff. I'm a Métis man. I know the states does not recognize Métis people. You guys don't do that, which is sad. But in Canada we do, and so there's a
So,
lot of different
explain
functions
that. What
there.
is it? What is that now? So you're native. Well, we'd say Native American, but that works for North American. It's like it's amazing in America.
Yeah,
We steal this word America. Like, well, there's two continents named that. The hell are we
yeah,
doing?
right. Uh, yeah, not going there. Not going there.
Oh,
Uh,
please do. I'm sure I'm on the same side as this.
oh man, it's hard because I mean I'll say it's a little bit hard because we associate your country as America, and then it's
Right.
like, well, I live in North America, but I'm not American, so
Right.
kind of weird. We don't go around saying Native Canadians, so we just say Indigenous. But
Yeah.
Métis people,
Yeah, I was gonna say that. That's why I didn't say it. I'm like, that's a weird thing. I've never heard that, so I'm not gonna say that. So I'm just
really?
gonna say native Yeah. I've never heard like native
Wow,
Canadian. We're Native American, yeah, we say that all the time, meaning the indigenous people, right? But
wow,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. No,
But indigenous,
we say
see,
Indigenous.
indigenous is too big of a word for Americans. That's why.
Hmm. Too many. You
Syllables.
know,
Yeah.
you can't see what I'm doing. I was doing something. You
Yeah,
can't see what I'm doing.
exactly.
I
Too
was
many
moving
syllables.
syllables. Yeah,
I gotta look that
syllables.
one
There's
up.
too many in that. So there's Indigenous. There was the controversial, depending who you say it to. In Canada,
Right.
it was not too controversial. You could say Indian. Uh, where I live, that's not even remotely controversial. That's a lot of the bands here actually have that in the name, so you could say Indian, but
Yeah.
we tend to go with indigenous. They used to say Aboriginal, but then I suppose the Aborigines were like, hey,
Yeah.
you've already
That makes
stolen
me
a
think
name from one
Australian.
country, don't steal ours. And
Right.
so indigenous. But anyways, Métis people, it's a specific grouping that started at the Red River in Manitoba,
Okay.
where it was they call this half breeds. Métis kind of comes from that. It would be like
Yeah,
Europe.
that's not offensive.
Yeah, right, right. No, not at all. They call us half breeds. It would be if you were to ask certain people, they would say French Cree, a mixture of that, specifically from
Ah,
Manitoba's Red River. That's not
okay.
100% accurate because there was some Gaelic people in there, there was some Ojibwe, but for the most part, they consecrate to that. We have our own
Okay.
language, tons of dialects. I when I teach, I refer to it as like Michif JKD. That's what I get to call my school. Michif is the Métis language. It's also
Oh, cool.
the Michif way to say Métis, which is Michif. So that's where that comes from.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Hope you didn't mind my
That is
verbal
pretty.
diarrhea there.
No, no, not at all. I like learning about that stuff because I just finished watching. Oh my gosh, I keep forgetting the name of this show, and I just watched. It was an AMC show that they put on Hulu, and it dealt with kind of like some murder mystery stuff on Navajo Nation here. Really good show, really interesting, I remember initially seeing it when it came out, and I was gonna bug my friend, an instructor at the academy by the name of Atticus Todd, because he is Anishinaabe, so he's a Native American, and he was, if you've seen the show Yellowstone, he was actually the tribal police chief in like the first two seasons of it.
Nice.
So yeah, so he's like an actor guy, and I'm like, hey man, you better have your agent putting you out for this show because this show looks pretty cool, you know. But
I do film
I
as
don't.
well.
Yeah, there you go. But it's kind of cool.
I can't name the latest project yet to come out, not loud.
Yeah, but it's neat because we're starting to see that, and it was funny actually. Jay Rapasso asked me in his interview here earlier. He had said something about seeing more because he's Filipino, and he said seeing more actual Filipino stuff. I said, yeah, it's kind of the nice thing I think about some of the entertainment projects that are coming out now is people are recognizing and actually being a little more true to the native, to whatever they're trying to portray. They're not necessarily trying to have Emma Stone portray a Hawaiian girl. I think they learned their lesson trying that with whatever film that was back in the day, and they got just butchered in the press about it.
I know when I got into film, like bigger budget stuff, it was the agency when they were recruiting was actually going after indigenous people. So
Yeah,
that's how I'd heard out about it, right? Like the local communities were like, "Hey, they're hunting. Oh, cool." So
that's
that's
pretty
why I got
cool.
that. I realized I didn't fully answer your question though about the Métis thing.
Okay.
Long story short, your country. I didn't even
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/malmag and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with TJ Spencer. Next week, I complete my Canadian trifecta by going back to the East Coast and talking with martial arts instructor Rob Doley. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available with new t-shirt designs and more products coming soon. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Jack L. Relic. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.